how we can do stuff better?
Got it. I think I'm wearing this.
Oh, you're talking.
Yeah, how about that?
Okay, we'll see.
I was in the back. I didn't see my mark. Up. I'm doing the best I can. All right. If you got a chair, I could, maybe it would be better if I just went like this. How about that? Well, good evening, folks. Welcome. It's glad for me to be here again. I'm Louis Tonsmeyer from the big city of Cartersville, Georgia. I've had a professional photographer for almost 50 years. So I've seen everything from black and white to C22, C41, E4, E6, all the way to whatever that thing's called, Photoshop now. So I've kind of covered the gamut with all that. So I got started in high school and decided that photography was going to be it, and was going to go to Georgia Tech and get an engineering degree. And that didn't last very long. And so ended up opening my own studio in 1980 and said, this is what I think I want to do. And been very fortunate to have photographed a lot of things over the years, have been traveled the world. I've seen photographers worldwide. I was president of the Professional Photographers of America back in 2011, 2012. And who thought that this guy from Cartersville would ever be there? I would never have told you that for sure. But it was great to see the images that I got to judge this year. A couple of things I want to tell you. To me, competition is about getting better. It's not about getting beaten down. So please, whatever you do, don't take criticism the wrong way. Is in order for you to be better photographers. And I think more than anything else, we strive to be better photographers, but competition ought to be within yourself and not against others. And so remember that when you start to look at that and listen to comments of what I do, that as far as this, I don't want anyone to get discouraged. I tell a story about a lady who came to see me. It's been 6 years ago, and she brought images that she wanted to enter PPA for their judging. And they didn't stand a snowball's chance. They weren't even going to get out of the box. And I had to very nicely, say these weren't quite ready for competition and so forth. Well, lo and behold, 5 years later, she got her master's degree and invited me to present her master's degree for her. And it was exciting for her because it wasn't discouraging to her the first time. And so I think remind everybody about this, and that's the most important about this. So please ask questions. Don't be shy. I'll be glad to answer that. And then one last disclaimer here. Remember, what I say is what I say. Look at everybody around here. Everybody's going to have an opinion. And so just remember that. So again, what you enter now, somebody else going to look at and say, wow, that's great. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong in art. And that's what you got to remember as far as that. So we will get started here. And I don't know exactly, are we going to start this is how I look better in the dark anyway. So this will be perfect.
Yeah, that's what your wife said.
Exactly.
So I'll start with the novice category. I'll run them in one order, and in the reverse order, you can start providing your comments, Louis.
Okay, so these are all in the novice category. Is that correct? Are they
Correct. Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay. Okay.
Bursts of spring. Congratulations. Fading spring. Fun in the fall. Marching band season. Marching band season 2. one breath at a time. Reflections. Someday. That you can start providing your comments.
Okay. We will start here or go back to the beginning and then go backwards? Got it. Okay. This one was called Someday. It was an absolutely gorgeous image. I really, as you start to look at that, if I had anything to say about what I would change is enlarge it just slightly and get rid of that highlight at the top corner. And I'll tell you, all you have to do, when I'm looking at images like this, I take my hand and cover. And if you just take your hand and cover that right corner, how much your eye goes directly to the center. And that little bit right there is what we'll take away from that. So as you start to look at this and look at images, don't forget to look at areas that may be distractions as far as this, but absolutely gorgeous and very well done with the backlighting on the ice as far as that. So next image. I like this image. I thought it was actually would be better cropped in. So when I looked at this, I started hitting the plus key and looking, and that some of the areas just in the middle actually could tell that same story without seeing all of it. So look for the image within the image as you start to do this. And so don't be afraid to say, wait a minute, this might be the area that does that, not the whole thing. Next. This was a nice image with the colors as far as that. It wasn't super sharp in one area or another. That was the thing that probably took away from it as much as anything. But, and again, same thing. Without looking at all the different areas, you had some different highlights and areas that from the wind blowing onto the water and so forth, you lose some of the areas about, and again, that top part being a little bit brighter and so forth, you had a hard time really focusing on one part of this image. Next one, please. All right. I like this image as well. I like the way the maker had zoomed in and done this. Again, doesn't bother me that plume is cut off. It wasn't important as far as that. If I had to, if you notice, all this area right here leads you into this right here. That's a little bit distracting. Again, it's hard to tell that person behind them take their hat off. All right. But as far as the lighting, it was a great lighting pattern. If you see you got a directional light coming from this way, that's what creates a great profile, is that light is coming from behind them. So you get a shadow, which gives you that dimensional light on their face, which is what you're after as far as that. But again, that's the other way that's the only way you're going to see any of this is by having that light direction. If it was coming in from straight in this way, you wouldn't have that strong an image. Okay. Same here, to me, not as strong in the light source coming from one direction or another. It's a little bit flatter. And again, the hard part with this is that you've got all these different brighter areas in different areas pulling you in different directions. And so there's nothing really to focus on as far as that. But it really is still pretty nice as far as the way it's shaped within the three bells that way. For a still life, this was great as far as that. Again, the biggest problem with this is that some of the highlights in the background, whenever you have brighter highlights, your eyes are going to go to the brightest part of this image. And so when they're in these center areas, you've got this competition with what's right here. So I would probably tell you, again, in this case, something even closer would make this that much better as opposed to having everything around it. I really like this image a lot. And again, the title was spring to, yeah. And so, showing that, and again, we want to focus on this pretty leaf, but showing this dead stuff along with it, I thought was pretty ingenious as far as that. I really like this image as far as that goes. Again, the only other thing that I would say is you got two areas of highlights that really take away from it, here and here. If you can get rid of that, your eye would go even more so. As far as that. This is, okay, again, I'm not about telling you that Photoshop is the catch-all and make everything better. But in some cases, it can help you in this as well. So. Another great image in that it's not one you see a lot of. All you see are graduates with their hats on and so forth, or you're seeing them throwing them up in the air. But just to see the hats tells you great about what this is. It's graduation, and it tells a great story. And that's, again, what image making is. It's telling a great story as far as that. And so again, the way, I don't know how many times they threw their hats up to get that, but it was pretty well done. Again, love the colors in it, love the way it's done. I think that there are certain areas that are better than others. I think if you did come in just in this area right here, would tell just as much of a story as seeing the whole thing. So look for pieces of this. This pod right here, very nicely done. But I think that you've got so much variation in the tree branch and so forth that it takes away from those colors that way. That's all the novelist.
Yeah.
Next, I think will be standard color. Is that right? Standard.
Okay, I'll start with the honorable mention.
Okay.
Honorable mention, Reflections, Patricia Bonilla, sorry. Honorable mention, Marching Band Season, Maura Davis. On third place, congratulations, Mary Ann Crow. In second place, Someday, Mary Ann Crow. In first place, Joy Rogers. Joy, if you are there, if you can give some background on this. Okay. I'll move on to monochrome now.
Monochrome.
make the picture fill the screen without the sidebars.
Not really understand.
Before we even get to monochrome, I think it was the hardest one to judge. As far as and when I say that, it was the hardest one because there were a lot of great images in there. So it by far took me the longest.
A storm is brewing. A winter's day. A winter's tale. Baby feet. Christmas in Marietta. Clearing skies. Engagement. Fall colors. Majestic spring flower. Pumpkin shine. Pumpkin head. Sandy Springs snow. Season's greetings. Snow girl. Summer shades. Summer magnolia. Sun and sand. The end. The toddler ears. Too cold to be out. Tulip season. Judge, you can start providing your comments.
A couple of things that Pat told me about this. One is your highlights are a little bit blown out on these screens, different than what I saw. So I just want to tell you that. Again, great view of the tulips. You got a nice leading path through here. Again, if I had any complaints at all, is again this highlight up here that kind of keeps you from being right in this area right here, which is your sharpest part of the image. And that was by far it. But I love this, the way it's leading in that way. Next. This, not only with the title, but a great way, again, on the screen, this is not nearly as blown out right there as well. The biggest thing as you start to look at this is that I was still trying to get where I was supposed to be pulled here or pulled up into that lone tree. And it's just trying to look at what the image maker is trying to convey that way. And it tells two different stories in that, but it's still really nice. The tones were very nice in this image and very nicely done. I love this on the kid. I mean, you've got kids and grandkids. This is what you live for. Again, if anything, is that this is on this screen, it's a little bit brighter. It's not quite as bright on what I saw, but still right in here, you want your eyes going into this area a little bit more than this lighter area right here. Love the solarness of the flag over on the right-hand side. Again, very nicely done. This had a little bit better tones, what I saw than what I see here as far as that as well. I love this image. It was very nicely done. It's got some great tonal ranges. Not only are you seeing your good whites in this area here, there's a good deep black right there. So you've got everything in between, which is, I mean, for those of us that grew up with black and white, there was this guy, I don't know if you ever heard of him, Ansel Adams. You know, kind of led us all down this path that this is the way black and white should be, with all this nice zone 6 tonal range. And this one had a great tonal range to it as well. And not only was it a great photograph as far as that goes, but really the range in it was pretty good. If I had anything, it could probably zoomed in just slightly a little bit larger as far as that, just that area of the dead leaf. Again, same thing here. It's blown out here, but it was not blown out on the original. It really looked really nice as far as that goes. I like this image. Again, on the screen here, you're probably not seeing, there was separation between that toe and in that area. But I really liked it as much as anything else. It had again, a great tonal range, which gave you those specular parts of the sand that you can really see as far as that goes. And unless you've got highlights and shadows, if that light's coming straight in from camera view, it's going to be flat and you don't see texture. That's the only way you get texture is by highlights and shadows. And that's where this comes from. Again, really nice image of the flower as far as that. I was looking for a little bit better sharpness in this area right here that I did not see. That was probably the only complaint I had about it, but it really looks nice. You have to look at this real closely and really study it for a little bit as far as that. I never could figure out where that rabbit came from. But it really makes you stop and think. When you first glance at it, you go, oh, good, it's a pair of sunglasses. But you really got to look at the reflections to really see, I think, and that's what the maker was wanting me to do, was stop and really take a look at it and see all the different reflections in it. And you're seeing all these different things in here. And it's pretty nicely done. Again, my first glance was, oh, it's just a pair of sunglasses. But you have to stop and look at it again. And that's what it was pretty awesome as far as that. I really think that hopefully somebody can tell me. I think it's a dead tree, but I'm not sure if it was a rabbit or somebody doing two fingers or what. But that intrigued me as far as that goes. A child playing in the snow. Again, great image. The only thing it needed was a little bit more directional light to really separate her from this snow a little bit. And so I think that was the main thing I saw, seeing the snowman and her. Great. I love the fact that it wasn't in the center, folks. Again, we look at images in thirds as far as this. And so having this child here with plenty of room to look, very nicely done as far as that goes. I didn't realize somebody photographed my house and without my permission. Okay. I'm again, a great image as far as that. I think in this case, we need a little bit more detail in some of these areas right here, so they don't just disappear into it. And so again, you just want to hold that back. Again, I'm not worried about the highlights as I was in some of these darker shadow areas. I want to see a little bit more detail as far as that. And that's just making combinations of exposures and working on it that way. The boats were really nice. I think that I love the leading edge of the dock as far as that. I would like to see it cut off a little bit more. I really think this is a better square image than vertical. As I start to look at it, the top really didn't have anything to do with the image. So if you look at, when you take off look how strong those boats are when you take the trees out. Does everybody see that? And that, again, that's the way I look at images. I was taught to look at different parts of the image that make it. And so, but if I had a complaint, I would just say those trees in the background didn't help this image. And you could probably, again, probably cut it off here and then cut it off there, and it's a much stronger image. The jack-o'-lantern, didn't quite make it. I saw this and I was going, okay. And I see the sparks coming from it as far as that, but it was just a little bit flatter than I like when I see in monochrome black and white. I really want to see some of those blacks in there that really are rich and deep. And that's what I did not see in this image as far as that. But it is very well done that you can get some of these sparks as far as that. And I would probably, if you really want to do this, a little bit longer exposure might give you a little bit more of, almost what you saw behind Hilo's head earlier tonight with those fireworks going as far as that goes. So. This was, again, the biggest issue that when you start to look at this is that the only directional light is all right in here, and there's nothing really giving you direction onto your subject as far as that. And so it just becomes a flat black and white image. So you're really looking for more directional light, and what you would really ideally want is probably a little bit later in the day so that this light is coming into his face. It's probably just too early in the day for this to really have that same effect that it needs to have as far as that. Again, the same things as you start to look at some of these, it's a great image right there, but this takes away from it. And so when I looked at this, I like some of these longer shadows as far as that, but that highlight just competes with that white right there. And so I think, again, you could probably, figure out how to make this into a vertical that might make this a little bit stronger image, even within that image. Again, same thing. Love the light on the tree and on the leaves right here, but you've got all this area right here and so you just have to try and pick times of day that may be better for this. And so with that lighter sky, you just have too much competing with what your eye is supposed to be going to, which is that tree in the middle. Like this image a lot as far as that. The only thing that I had a problem with was in some cases is I wasn't sure if I was supposed to look here or supposed to look here. And so I kind of had to stop and look and say, okay, is that part? So I think, again, the engagement, I think was the title for this, right? Had engagement in it. Is that right? Even without this, and again, the same thing is she's got pretty nails, but it competes with what's up there on that. Okay. I'm sure the diamond costs more than her nails. So you just think about that as far as that. So what really is for me is that you're trying to figure out what it is that they're trying to show right there. Okay. Exactly. So what you may have to do is bring this hand down and then back up, so it's a little bit softer coming up like this rather than straight, so that you can kind of do this. And then the other thing is just cradle these hands instead of straight down. Does that make sense? So that everybody see that it's not this. Wait a minute, this right here. It's more cradling and up like this. And so you might be able to make a horizontal out of it and still show that. It's a difficult thing. It's like I say, I don't have a problem with it, but your eyes keep wanting to go in two places with when you got two sets of hands that way. That's what I kept, and again, and it doesn't help that she's got a great manicure. Again, I mean, I don't want to make light of that, but again, when you got this bright white highlight right there, to me, it just didn't, because this is what supposedly the story you're telling is engagement right here. And it's and so that was where I was kind of tossing and turning about what it is that it should be. I don't know that I got the perfect answer for you, Ralph, but there you go. Again, like this image a lot as far as that. There was some issues and again, what you have to remember is when you're preparing your files, depending on how you do it, sometimes you get artifacts in it and that will take away from that image. And that's what was happening in a couple of these in the monochromes that I saw was looking at that. But overall, pretty nice as far as the color goes and the tones. Again, you've got a good white and you got a good black and you got all these in between. That to me is what you're always looking for, is that range. And that's not as easy in digital as everybody makes it out to be. Everybody talks about digital. I'll take Tri-X over digital any day. And if you've been around as long as I have, you'll know Tri-X is film. All right. That's, yeah. And that you didn't have to work that hard at tonal ranges on like, and everybody, when we went to digital, film had this range of like this much. And then all of a sudden we're forced into a range of this much. And so trying to create that same range is what has been our biggest Achilles heel in digital photography, in my opinion, is still being able to create the range like this. And so you have to work at it harder than you did before. And that film was so forgiving. The only film that wasn't forgiving was Ektachrome and Kodachrome. That's when we shot 4 exposures to get one in the middle that was right. And that was the biggest difference. But very nicely done as far as, like I say, the tones as far as that goes. Again, even on this one, these were blown out slightly as far as that goes. So you want to see that. And seeing, walking down the path as far as that, pretty nice as far as getting your detail into the tree and so forth. There was a little bit of issue with some of the tones down in there that because I could not, the detail just wasn't there when I first looked at this image as far as that. But it looks pretty nice as far as that at Christmas time in the square. All right. Yeah, I'm a portrait photographer, but more than anything else, this was a very nicely created. See how you've got that nice highlight and range going from here to here. And again, you've got detail as far as that. If I had to say anything with this being the title of Baby Feet, you could probably even tone that down just slightly, a little bit more, so your eye goes to that foot even more. But I love the way that it was not centered and not right in the middle. It was very nicely done. Emma Frogs. And I love this image. It was just great. Again, very nicely done as far as the having it, whether you were looking at this or, then, but see how even the snow is giving you a nice edge across here as far as that. Again, there was detail in the snow in the image back in the back of them as well, but nicely done as far as that. This image was, I love the image, love this. The file wasn't sharp. And I'm not sure exactly whether it was in the rendering or what, but there was some issues with the file. This would be a really great image. Just check the file as far as that and why it wasn't sharp in some areas, but more than anything else, when you're looking at images that you want to, well, you see how this path is leading you into this image this way. And I love the way that was done as far as that. Same way here as far as the sand, you know, coming in as far as that, the difference in the sand and the clouds. When you look at this and you stand back, the only thing that I think is that if this was just slightly brighter, your eyes would lead you in even more instead of being toned down as much as it was. I would hold it back. See how bright white that is right there and how your eyes go to that. I would like to see that coming in just a little bit more into that image that way. Okay.
Honorable mention. Baby feet, Angie Nasrallah. Honorable mention. A Winter's Day, Jeff Westland. In third place, A Winter's Tale, Phyllis Westland. In second place, Sun and Sand, Phyllis Westland. In first place, The End, Jeff Westland. Jeff, if you can come forward and speak to this. Congratulations. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice image, very nicely done.
Okay, I'll go over the colors.
Okay,
5 minute little break, and then we'll finish up the problem.
perfect.
Time starts now. Military.
Yeah, no kid.
In case you didn't get it out there, it's 5-minute biology break.
Pat.
Well, where's the spot? Where's the spot? I see it.
Right there.
I'm going to put it off. I'm going to say some nice things about Lewis afterwards because I can't say him twice. So, color, please.
Okay, color.
Light, can someone, Pat? Thank you. Thank you. After harvest. Autumn dreams. Early morning's calm. First snow of the season. Hanging on. Harness the wind. Hiding in plain sight. Holy Saturday. Homecoming. Into the spring storm. Lighting through the storm. Monarch migration. Portending to spring. Robin needs boots. Singing a silent song. Sitting on the dock of the bay. Spring cleaning. Spring flowers with honeybee. Spring in the garden. Spring in Utah. Summer at the beach. Summer. Summer golden hour. Summertime hues. Welcome to Kukanov. Judge, you can start providing your comments.
Um, again, same thing that we've talked about before. You've got this great leading image in here. Again, I think where that takes away from this is this area right up in here that's competing with this. So I think if you just crop this in a little bit tighter and cut out some of that across the top, again, if you'll hold your hand across that top and see how much those flowers pop even more, for me, that's what I look at, that's what I want to see are those blue flowers right there. And so, but I love the way that, again, you start here and have that leading path through there. Again, I thought this was a very creative and great image. Same thing, take your hand and cover the water up and see how much better that blue pops without the water in it. And again, my job is not necessarily to say there's something bad with this. It's what I think that could make this better. I love the colors in here. I love the splash of color right here, but that's your shot is right there. And you just got that little bit of competition to me right there. And so, again, that was for me that I looked at that I just loved. Again, I love the colors in this. But I just thought that if you could just have just sand and the blue and that red, it was a little bit stronger image. Again, the biggest problem you have when you're doing as that sun starts to set right here, is you're starting to get these deeper shadows. Well, right here in the center kind of takes you away from some of the color areas right here. So be conscious of these areas right here that in this case takes away from that, all that sunlight hitting the colors. This was a very sharp image. And if you don't realize, I mean, number one, getting this close to a B, but it's really nicely done as far as that, very sharp. If you've done any macro photography, you realize how hard it is to keep those areas sharp. Again, very nicely done. I like it, especially that it's not centered. I love just seeing that hint of that flower and all that right there. I mean, it was very nice image, just like it is. Go back one, and again, I want to show this that I want to pay close attention. Notice the crop on this. What is it? Square. Is that what a digital camera is? No. So don't be afraid you don't have to stay within the format of the camera to make an image strong. And I just want to point that out to you, that just because you got all this green over here left, you don't have to show it. Well, mine's sitting up on the shelf if you want it. You know, I do miss square format. I don't mind telling you, I shot with a Hasselblad for 30 plus years, and it was a great camera, but you have to, all of a sudden you're now looking from what I used to look through a square. Now I'm shooting, back to 35 millimeter film days as far as that. It was a lot different for me as far as that. But I think I still say that in that sometimes we get caught up in that just because that's what you see in the camera is what you're stuck with. And don't be afraid to go outside of that to look at this. Again, love the sunset, love the way it is. I would like to see this as just a little bit lower camera angle. And what would happen there is all this would now be into the shadow of the water, and see what would happen to your horizon line would then be below that umbrella and get you a good clean shot of the umbrella right there. So just a little bit lower camera angle will make that a little bit stronger image as far as that. Again, love the way that the road led you into this. There's a whole lot going on right here, a lot of different color hues, and a great shot as far as that. The biggest thing is I wasn't sure that the car really fits within the image as far as looking at this, but I love the way the road goes into this, and all your different heights for not only here, but all into the background as far as that. Again, nicely done. Biggest problem I had with this image was the color hues in it. This is where I think it was basically over processed. You don't have to make the colors pop as much as you think you do. But again, very nicely done as far as the lighting goes. You're leading into this. If anything else, as far as this was a little bit too hot, even in this area right here, hot meaning a little bit too bright as far as that. And right in here, if you're wanting to go through here, you can't have this image to be too bright right there. You got to make your eyes go into there. But it was more about the colors with this for me, that I wanted to see it toned down slightly. Again, if you remember about the title of this, it's about the bumblebee, if I remember correctly. Is that right? Yeah, honeybee. Okay. Honeybee is the smallest part of this image. So again, remember, your title has a lot to do with if you're trying to present this and you're using titles with this as well, make sure that the honeybee is prominent in it. So again, I think this is your shot, and these other colors you don't even need this other stuff as much as you do just that area right there. So I, if anything, you just crop in tighter as far as that. So again, your bee's bigger and that flower is really going to pop as far as that. There's really some nice colors all in through here, but I just think it needs to be cropped in. When you look at this right here, obviously it's the nesting area of so forth. The other problem with it, as much as anything else, is again, I don't have to see everything around it. It's the closeness of these two birds and even in the nesting area. So I think you could probably make this even a really tight horizontal and be even stronger as far as the birds go and not everything around it. The colors are really nice. The lights really good. Even this, if you notice, this was probably done midday. Does everybody understand how you can tell that by the shadows? Okay, if this was late afternoon, that shadow from that neck wouldn't be coming straight down. And so when you look at this, so if you think about that, and I say that for a reason, in that you got away with something at the worst time of day that looks like a pretty good image as far as that. So you're not necessarily just tied to early morning, late afternoon. It's worth, sometimes some images you can get away with having these straight up and down light sources coming straight down on it. But in this case, it's really not too bad. That shadow doesn't bother me a bit as far as that, but I love the colors in the birds. So I did not realize that Otis Redding was in your group. Because this is right, sitting on the dock of the bay. Is that right? Okay, that's what. All right. Again, couple of positive notes about this. Number one, when you're looking at sunsets, don't put the sun in the middle. You want it off to the side. Give your image room to move and so forth. Love the dock as far as that. Very nicely done on your sky as far as that. Again, it really is well done as far as your lighting goes. I would say you could probably even take that dock down a little bit more and make that sunset even more prominent as far as that, but it really is a nice image. Again, pretty as far as the colors go, nice crop. You could probably even come in just a little bit tighter with this. There's a little bit of open space for me, but it really is pretty nice as far as the colors go. The lighting on those flowers is very nice. And you're seeing all the lily pads. Not much. If I had any complaint at all, it's this one right there. And again, what that is that particular leaf seems to be at a different angle than the rest. Do you see that? So it's capturing more light, which is giving you that highlight that gets blown out slightly. So you need to swim out there and push that leaf down. Okay, so that's what you got to do to make that. No, that if there's any complaint of it, and you're sitting there going, okay, it's not that I'm trying to complain. I'm trying to tell you that this is what you got to look for. So if you cropped in slightly and got rid of that, it might make this even stronger. But again, very well done as far as that goes. Robin in the snow. Again, I look for distractions. The tree in the back is a distraction to me. And so you got that one tree just straight back as far as that. The lighting on the bird, if you look at this real closely, you look in the eye of that bird, there's light all in that iris right there. That is very nice. The other thing you start to look at, okay, see that white in those feathers? Where is that? That's the snow reflecting into that. And that's what's giving you that highlight. It's not the sunlight or anything. That light is hitting that snow and you're using that snow as a light source. And so that's what's given it all this, what we would call rim light in lighting. And that's why these feathers have such good texture. This is, again, very nicely done as far as when you start to look at this and see the detail and the separation in those feathers. Again, that's what you look for in a bird for me, as far as that. If you did not see that, it just wouldn't have any life or anything. So you're looking for those highlights and shadows that give that, this area especially. Like I say, so you're probably going, wow, that's just kind of weird, but that's what you're looking for, is that light is bouncing off this snow and giving that light source right there. But if I had to go back again, if anything out of that, it's the tree that really bothered me the most. Does everybody see that? I mean, when you start to look at that bird and see how nicely everything else is done. So, okay. Gorgeous. That's just, I mean, it popped up and I'm like, wow, this is, and again, this is, there's not much I would say that you're going to change as far as this. Love how it just kind of weaves around. You got these leaves falling down. I mean, again, look at the water, the droplets right there, that they're just sitting on those leaves. It's got a little bit of everything in it. Again, if you look at this on the screen, there is detail all in right there. And it's, again, a gorgeous, gorgeous image right there. Okay. Again, same thing we talked about earlier. The monarch butterfly is gorgeous. Remember, we've talked about not necessarily showing the whole image as far as that. If you did this as a vertical, I'm almost thinking like this and get rid of some of this over here and this right here, your eyes are going to go to where you want it to. And for me, that's what I was looking at. How this just kept pulling me away from the butterfly. This. Oh, that.
If it was cropped, you saw that one lump of land.
It may be, and that's what but what I would probably tell you is play. Don't just take it as it is. Play with this and see. But it definitely right here, this is, again, that particular flower. And again, what you've got is you've just got values that this is a bright white and the monarchs, about a 6 or a 7. And you're just having all this competition with brightness right here. And so you're trying to show a butterfly, but these two things are just taken. So I think you just have to look at this and see where you could crop this that might make it just a little bit better image. So, yeah, exactly. That's what you really don't need this over. So concentrate on the area of what you've got. And again, I say this only because when I'm judging, if you watch me, I will sit there and hit that plus button and start looking at it, because I want to make sure I'm looking at all parts of the image that a maker has sent me. And so when you start to do that, you'll start to see, wow, that other part I don't need. Okay. Just like a sunset, as far as this, I wasn't crazy about it being right in the center. So again, what I would probably tell you is that this part is not as important as having a little bit more over here for what that lighthouse is supposed to be doing. And so the other thing is, you probably with this fog, you got to pop it just a little bit more to give it a little bit more punch as far as that. But if nothing else, I'd love to see the lighthouse a little bit more right here with a little bit more of this open sky this way and see what that would look like. as you start to look at this, and I mean, this is easier said than done. You kind of want to see a little bit more of the train to give you a little bit more of that leading edge coming into this. And if you could see down the tracks, I think would help this. Again, I always say that's easier said than done. I wasn't there, and you're going, that's not possible. So you start to look at this and see, yeah. And for that matter, you may be in the back of the train and you don't have a choice. And so I think, but more than anything else, when you start to look at this, as far as that, you know, I guess the question I would have is, do you want to see more of the mountains or see more of the train? And so, you know, cropping this in slightly, a little bit more, eliminating some of this down here might help you a bit to give you a little bit more of a leading edge coming up and shooting up that way. But overall, I mean, it's pretty nice. You got pretty nice sky right there, and there's some pretty good detail right in here. I think the main thing you're just trying to figure out is you got this, all of a sudden the train kind of splits these colors right here, and you're looking for where you want to go. And so trying to see if you can figure out how to look down the tracks a little bit more or see that curve in it helps that image a little bit. Great shot of a dragonfly. This is where I would probably tell you that Photoshop can be your friend, or a pair of scissors. That piece right there. And just think how strong the head would be and all that in there without that going up through there. My wife sits in the pool and the dragonflies land on her finger. Yeah, it's crazy. She'll just stand there like this, and then they'll just come and land right now. The fish are feeding on them right now too. If you watch and see that. But, you know, you have to look at this real closely. You realize there's a cricket in there too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know. You have to look at these things more than once, and you kind of go, okay, and do that. But if I had any complaint at all, it would be that right there. Because I really think it would make that dragonfly really stand out even more. Because I think that this color in here would really pop that much more without that. But again, really nice image of a dragonfly. Yeah. This was called Holy Saturday, if I remember correctly. And really powerful image, you know, very nicely done. And I tell you, it again, on this screen, am I doing okay? How much on time? Okay. All right. This is not blown out on the image, but you got good water stoppage right there as far as that. I mean, you know what's going on. It, again, great image as far as that. Just like I've said before, again, I think it's great. I think these two were your biggest part of the image right here. So you try and get rid of some of the other stuff that would be a little less distracting towards those flowers. This one is actually better on the screen than it was on the computer. His face is a lot darker when you look at it on the computer screen than it is up here. And so as you start to look at this, having lightening the face a little bit and getting a little bit better tone in here will help this image a little bit as far as that. I love the water spray, and nicely done that way. Same thing said, just like the monochrome as far as this, again, this is your image right there. Figure out how to make it. I think if you just made this just a really nice, really tight vertical, it could be really nice. And even tilt it slightly, just letting that leaf not be straight down and just turned a little bit. it would be really that to me, just a little bit stronger. Great as far as the color on the first snow this way. And again, on the computer, it's not as blown out as you see here. Great difference in the two ranges that way. If I had to say anything, this area right here doesn't help you as much as this area up here. When you break this out into pieces, as far as this area was your stronger area. I love the reflection in the water. I honestly think when you're looking at, there wasn't anything when you went into the center to look at. But I love the boats over on the left-hand side. And so when I looked at this, I just felt like this was the better part of the image than just showing everything right there. This was as much as anything an exposure and processing issue. Your colors are just overblown as far as that goes. But I think toning that down would really give you some nice colors and give this, you need a little bit more detail in these areas than they were with the exposure that was presented. I saw this on Upper Roswell Road. But it was, again, gorgeous image as far as this goes. Love seeing all the little roads and so forth. What helps this image is, again, when you start to look at this, is these areas that are darker. That's what gives you separation between these. If it was all the same tone through here, you wouldn't get those rolling hills that way. So again, being able to record that and show that in those different ranges and colors that way are very nicely done.
It's just not as good a connection. I can move it like that.
Starting with the honorable mention. Summertime Hues, Jeff Westland. Honorable mention, Holy Saturday, Angie Nasrallah. In third place, Summer, Angie Nasrallah. In second place, Singing a Silent Song, Mark Burkett. In first place, Portending to Spring, Ralph Burr. Ralph, if you can speak to this image.
That was shot with a 100 to 400 off of my deck over the course of about, I don't know, 45 minutes one morning in a light rain.
Very nicely done.
Congratulations. Yeah, that's it.
Louis, thank you. One of the members told us that you're from Canada.
Canada? I doubt it.